Imagine
My
everything
view
you've ever
is,
known,
first
every
of all, it's not our
person,
job
every
to
memory,
impose
every
our
story,
wishes or fears
reduced
on the
to a
universe.
single dot,
Our job is
barely
to
visible
understand
against
what
the
universe
endless
is really
dark
like.
of space. What if that dot was all we had? In 1990, a distant spacecraft captured one quiet, haunting image that forever changed how we see ourselves. It begins far from Earth, in the deep silence of space. In 1977, NASA launched two spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, as part of a bold mission to explore the outer planets of our solar system. These robotic explorers carried with them instruments to observe Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, as well as a golden record containing sounds and images from Earth, a sort of time capsule for any intelligent life that might one day find it. Voyager 1, after completing its mission of observing Jupiter and Saturn in great detail, continued its journey toward the edge of the solar system. 13 years after launch, in February of 1990, it was over 6 billion kilometers, or nearly 4 billion miles, from home. At that distance, it had long since passed any planetary targets. The spacecraft was on its way to interstellar space. But before it moved too far out of range, a last-minute idea changed how we might see ourselves forever. Carl Sagan, an astronomer, author, and one of the key scientific advisors on the Voyager mission, proposed something unusual. Why not turn Voyager's camera around and take a photo of Earth, just one last look, before it left the solar system behind? The idea wasn't met with immediate agreement. There were concerns that the spacecraft's imaging system might be damaged by looking so close to the Sun, even from that distance. But eventually, NASA agreed. On February 14, 1990, Voyager 1 turned its camera back toward the inner solar system and began taking a mosaic of images, 60 frames in total. In one of those frames, Earth appeared as a faint speck, barely lit by a scattered sunbeam. That single frame would become one of the most famous images in the history of space exploration. Earth appeared as a tiny point of light, just 0.12 pixels wide, floating in the vastness of space. It was soon given a name, the pale blue dot. The photograph itself isn't visually striking in the traditional sense. It doesn't show vivid colors or dramatic shadows. The planet is nearly invisible. Without knowing what you're looking for, you might miss it entirely. But that's exactly the point. Its power comes not from how it looks, but from what it represents. At that distance, Earth was seen not as a globe full of nations, cities, forests, and oceans, but as a mere dot. From nearly 4 billion miles away, there were no borders, no buildings, no people, just a pale blue pixel, suspended in a shaft of sunlight, surrounded by darkness. In his later writing, Carl Sagan reflected on this image with deep thought. He pointed out that every human being who ever lived, every king and peasant, every explorer and settler, every teacher, every child, every warlord and peacekeeper, had lived out their lives on that little dot. From that remote vantage point, the Earth doesn't look like much, but it's everything we know. From a purely scientific standpoint, the image provided an important moment in planetary observation. It showed us the scale at which we exist in space. Even within our own solar system, Earth is minuscule. In the vast background of the Milky Way galaxy, it's hardly noticeable at all. And when compared to the full universe, home to billions of galaxies, it becomes almost impossible to comprehend our physical insignificance. But the image also marked a turning point in how we relate to space and to each other. In the decades before this photo was taken, space missions had mostly been driven by competition and technical achievement. The space race of the 1960s was about who could get to the moon first, who could launch the first satellite, the first human, the first rover. These were bold, difficult milestones, and they changed history. But they were mostly about doing what hadn't been done before. The pale blue dot, by contrast, wasn't about reaching a new place. It was about looking back at where we'd come from and seeing it in a new way. It didn't teach us something we didn't know, but it made us feel something we hadn't really faced. How small and isolated we really are, and how precious that smallness might be. This change in perspective, sometimes called the cosmic perspective, has been echoed by many astronauts, scientists, and thinkers since then. When people see Earth from far away, even just from low Earth orbit, they often speak of what's called the overview effect. It's a sense of awe, a sudden realization that all life, all history, and all future is contained on one fragile world, floating in a void. Astronauts like Chris Hadfield and Scott Kelly have described this feeling after their missions. Though they didn't travel nearly as far as Voyager 1, even seeing Earth from a few hundred kilometers up was enough to provoke the same thought. This is all we have. There's no backup planet. There's no visible sign of division between nations, no signs of religion, politics, or conflict. Just clouds, water, land, and light. From the edge of the solar system, even those details fade away. The pale blue dot image shows no continents, no weather, no storms, just a pixel containing the sum of all that has ever mattered to us. Scientifically, Voyager 1 continued to collect data long after the image was taken. It crossed into interstellar space in 2012, becoming the most distant human-made object in existence. It's still sending back signals today, though weak and slow, as it continues on its silent journey. Culturally, the image remains an icon of perspective. It has been used in education, environmental campaigns, philosophical essays, and even art installations. It's a simple image, but it asks a powerful question. What does it mean to live on that dot? For scientists, it's a reminder of how much we still don't know about the universe and our place in it. For environmentalists, it's a symbol of the need to protect the only home we have. For philosophers, it offers a mirror to human ego and ambition. And for everyone else, it's a gentle but undeniable prompt to take a step back and reflect. The pale blue dot isn't just a photograph. It's a moment of pause, a call to humility, a challenge to think beyond borders, beyond politics, beyond this week or this year, and consider the deep, wide story that we are all part of. That small image reminds us that Earth is not just a place we live. It's the only place we have. Every mountain, every ocean, every species, every culture exists here. It's the stage for every human drama, from ancient civilizations to today's complex global society. And when we see the planet from such a great distance, stripped of all the detail we're used to, we begin to see our world differently. From up close, we often think of Earth in terms of borders, divisions, and ownership. Maps are covered in lines. Governments claim territory. Societies organize themselves by region, religion, language, and belief. We create labels, identities, and loyalties. But these ideas, while powerful in human history, are invisible from space. From billions of miles away, there is no sign of boundaries, no indication of who controls what. The pale blue dot offers a perspective that removes all the lines we've drawn, showing instead just one world, shared by everyone. That perspective doesn't deny the richness of human culture. On the contrary, it gives us the chance to appreciate how diverse and complex life on Earth truly is. From the rainforests of the Amazon to the frozen landscapes of the Arctic, from the bustling cities of Asia to the quiet islands of the Pacific, the variety of life is extraordinary. Languages, traditions, music, art, food, science, all of it has emerged from the creativity and resilience of people living together on this single planet. And yet, despite all that we've built, all that we've learned, we still struggle to live together peacefully. Conflict, injustice, and division continue to shape many parts of the world. Wars are fought over territory, religion, ideology, and resources. Inequality exists both within nations and between them. Environmental damage, economic instability, and political unrest often affect the most vulnerable people the hardest. From a distance, these struggles may seem small, but for those living through them, they are deeply real. The pale blue dot reminds us that none of these problems exist in isolation. No matter how separate we might feel from one another, we are all part of the same interconnected system. Air moves across borders. Oceans link distant coastlines. Diseases, technology, and information travel quickly. What happens in one part of the world can soon affect another. Climate change, for example, is not a problem for one country alone. It's a challenge facing the entire planet. Rising temperatures, melting glaciers, extreme weather, and biodiversity loss don't stop at national boundaries. The Earth's environment is fragile, not just in the physical sense, but also in terms of balance. Life has existed on this planet for billions of years, but it has depended on a narrow range of conditions: stable temperatures, breathable air, access to clean water, and a protective atmosphere. For most of human history, these conditions were taken for granted. Now, we're beginning to see just how easily they can be disrupted. Industrial activity, deforestation, pollution, and fossil fuel consumption have all played a role in changing the climate. These changes are happening faster than at any time in recorded history. Scientists around the world, including experts at NASA and the IPCC, agree that the effects are becoming more visible each year. Wildfires, droughts, floods, and more frequent natural disasters. The consequences are not only environmental, but social, impacting agriculture, migration, health, and the economy. From the pale blue dot's perspective, these issues are not just unfortunate, they are deeply avoidable. We have the tools, the knowledge, and the capacity to change course, but we often lack the collective will. That's what makes the image such a powerful reminder. It urges us to think not only as individuals or citizens of one country, but as members of a single species sharing a single, vulnerable world. In many ways, the image of Earth as a dot in space isn't entirely new. The Apollo astronauts had a similar reaction when they looked back at Earth from the Moon. The famous Earthrise photo, taken during the Apollo 8 mission in 1968, showed the blue planet rising above the gray lunar horizon. It was one of the first moments when people on Earth could see themselves as part of something bigger. That image, like the pale blue dot later on, sparked a wave of environmental awareness and reflection. It helped launch the modern environmental movement. Earth Day was established in 1970. People began to see the planet not just as a resource to be used, but as a home to be cared for. The idea of thinking globally took on a new dimension, inspired by the very real view of Earth floating in space. Carl Sagan believed that recognizing our smallness didn't make us insignificant. It made us more aware of our shared responsibility. When he wrote about the pale blue dot, he wasn't asking people to feel hopeless. He was asking us to feel connected, to understand that this small world contains everything we love, and that means we must take care of it. The fact that we are just a speck in the universe doesn't make our lives meaningless. It makes them all the more precious. The image also invites us to reconsider how we treat one another. If every person who has ever lived shared that tiny point of light, then our differences might not be as large as they seem. Culture, religion, and politics may shape our lives, but they do not define our humanity. Compassion, empathy, curiosity, and cooperation are just as much a part of who we are. Seeing Earth from afar may be rare, but the lesson it offers can be brought into daily life. It encourages humility. It reminds us that no matter how important our personal struggles or national goals might seem, they exist within a far larger story. A story that's not just about survival, but about understanding our place in the universe and acting with the future in mind. And while space travel may be limited to a few, the perspective it offers belongs to everyone. We don't need to leave the planet to see its beauty, its limits, or its potential. We simply need to look closely, sometimes from far away. The pale blue dot doesn't speak. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand. It simply exists, quietly, humbly, spinning in the darkness, carrying every hope and fear we've ever known. What we do with that understanding is up to us. This small dot, suspended in a sunbeam, is home to all life we are aware of. It holds our art and science, our music and memory. It carries our grief and our joy. And whether or not we ever travel to the stars, our journey begins and ends here. If Earth is so small and fragile, then it makes sense to treat it with care. If we all share this one planet, then it makes sense to treat each other with decency. These ideas aren't new, but the image helps bring them into sharper focus. It reminds us that life is rare, delicate, and deeply connected, and that we, the human species, are capable of both great harm and great compassion. The challenges facing the world are not small. Climate change continues to reshape ecosystems and societies. Inequality affects millions. Technology evolves faster than our ethics. Conflict, misinformation, and distrust test our ability to work together. But alongside these problems, there are reasons for hope. There is evidence that people are paying attention, that solutions are possible, and that action is already underway. One of the clearest examples of this is in the global response to environmental threats. Nations have begun to cooperate in ways that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. Agreements like the Paris Climate Accord, while far from perfect, represent an understanding that some issues are too big for any one country to solve alone. Scientists across the world share data, collaborate on research, and warn of what's at stake, not for profit or politics, but for the survival of our shared home. At the same time, technology has enabled new ways of understanding and protecting the planet. Satellites monitor deforestation and ocean temperatures. Renewable energy is expanding faster than many predicted. Innovations in agriculture, transportation, and design are helping to reduce waste and improve sustainability. These changes are not happening everywhere at once, and progress is uneven. But the momentum is real. Education also plays a critical role. As more people gain access to knowledge, especially about science and the environment, the more likely they are to support efforts that protect the Earth. Young people in particular have shown a strong commitment to climate action, human rights, and future-oriented thinking. Movements led by students and communities around the world continue to raise awareness and demand accountability from governments and industries. But beyond policy and technology, there's something more subtle that's needed. A shift in mindset. A recognition that our place in the universe is not at the center, but within it. The pale blue dot reminds us that meaning is not guaranteed by size or dominance. It comes from connection, from care, and from curiosity. The more we see ourselves as stewards rather than rulers, the more likely we are to create a world that lasts. Some might ask, why bother? Why think so far ahead or care so much about a planet that seems so small? The answer lies in what that planet represents. Earth is the only place, so far, where life is known to exist. Every song, every idea, every friendship, every moment of beauty, all of it happens here. We are not just living on Earth. We are part of it. We are made from the same elements, shaped by the same forces, governed by the same laws of nature. That understanding doesn't make life less meaningful. It makes it more. The fact that our actions can protect or damage something so rare should be a call to responsibility, not despair. The fact that we can choose kindness, fairness, and wisdom even in difficult times is a sign of what we're capable of. The pale blue dot is a reminder that what we do here and now will echo into the future, through our children, our ideas, and the legacy we leave behind. Looking ahead, space will continue to be part of that story. Exploration is in our nature. From the earliest humans who crossed continents to the missions that now send rovers to Mars, we have always sought to understand more about our surroundings. The stars, the planets, the mysteries of the universe. They call to something deep within us, not just for adventure, but for understanding. Efforts to return to the moon, to explore Mars, and to send spacecraft further into the cosmos are not just technical challenges. They are philosophical ones. What kind of explorers will we be? What will we bring with us? And what will we leave behind? If we ever reach another world, will we arrive as caretakers or conquerors? The answers to those questions will be shaped by how we treat our own world today. Carl Sagan once said that if we ever do venture beyond Earth in a meaningful way, we must first learn to live in peace here. Otherwise, we risk taking our divisions and conflicts with us. The goal of space exploration should not be to escape a broken planet, but to celebrate and extend the wonder of life wherever we find it. And to do that, we must first learn to see this world, the pale blue dot, as the miracle it truly is. Art, science, philosophy, and storytelling all have a role to play in that vision. When we look up at the night sky, we are not just seeing stars, we're seeing time, we're seeing distance, we're seeing the places we may one day go, and the long journey we've already made. The stories we tell about space are often about heroes and discoveries, but they are also about perspective, how looking far out helps us look within. The pale blue dot is not just a photograph, it's a perspective we can carry with us in everyday life. When we make decisions, whether personal, political, or professional, we can ask, does this help make the world better? Does it protect the future? Does it honor the life that shares this planet with us? These are not abstract questions. They're practical ones. They shape how we treat people, how we use resources, and how we solve problems. And just as importantly, the image invites wonder. Wonder about how life emerged here, about why it exists at all, and about how we fit into the vastness of space. That sense of curiosity is what drives science, art, and human progress. It's what encourages us to keep asking questions, to keep learning, and to keep reaching for something greater than ourselves. In the end, the pale blue dot is not only about smallness, it's about unity. It's about seeing the shared journey of humanity not as a collection of separate paths, but as one unfolding story. A story written by billions of people, each contributing in their own way. A story of struggle and triumph, of suffering and joy, of discovery and growth. We may be small, but we are not alone. We are together, on one planet, under one sky, with the chance to shape our future. The universe is vast and silent, but within it, on this dot of light, life has found a voice. The pale blue dot continues to drift in the dark, unchanged by our choices. But we are not unchanged. We can learn. We can adapt. And we can choose a path forward that honors the deep truth that image reveals, that everything we are and everything we can be depends on how we care for this tiny, beautiful world, our only home.